So on this side of the room we have Hugo Flores, and I'm going to be his moderator. I'm Joseph Lee.
And on this side we have Yareli, and I'm Emily. I will be moderating her. Yeah.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Hugo Flores.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yareli Perez. I'm one of the candidates for this 2024 election.
So Hugo Flores,
Yes.
given the worrisome rise of mental disturbances within the younger generation of Americans
Yes.
over at least the last decade, what would you now do to improve the mental health of our citizens?
I think, again, it comes down to making sure the country's healthy again. And, again, making sure, because you see a lot of decline in the U.S. now. People are not mentally healthy. People are not physically healthy. And so, again, looking into food companies, are they even safe to eat? Look into the FDA. Are they even honest? Because a lot of these companies have lobbied. So, again, my whole point here is to drain the swamp of corruption and everything like that.
As for me, I believe that it all falls on generations. I believe that it falls on our parents and these generations' parents. A lot of things are let to slide, and that's why we have a lot of incarcerated teenagers. And I think it's really important for us to allow these teenagers to realize what the nation and what country we are in and how we can better it for the sake of our children. It is our world, and we have to protect it for all costs. We can't be starting any wars. We can't be starting any street fights. It's really important for us to conduct safely and vividly.
Okay, Yareli. So continuing that question, as president, what would you do to increase mental health treatment within the community for our vets and their families and caregivers?
There are a lot of help out there. I know that we are a little corrupt on our healthcare for our veterans. It is really important for us to have these doctors that are able to help these veterans who struggle mentally, physically. They are going out there and fighting for our country, and it's important for us to value them and respect them for who they are and what they are and what they have done for us.
All right, again, I think this comes down to draining the swamp. Because again, I'm gonna keep Medicare, keep Medicaid, keep all these programs that are gonna help our veterans, help everyone in terms of healthcare. But again, a lot of these insurance companies are taking advantage of the American people. And again, I see this happen all the time. So again, draining corruption and that basically comes down to it. You have a lot of people taking advantage of the American people, and I'm here to take that away.
Okay. So with, for example, gun control, as president, what would you ensure that Americans keep the right to bear arms under the Second Amendment while also ensuring that gun violence drops?
All right, so again, I'm gonna keep the Second Amendment. There's no question about that. But again, I do agree that there should be a process to own a gun. I see no problem in that. However, we have that process, and there's still a gun issue. So again, I feel there's an underlying issue in that why are Americans feeling that they want to hurt other Americans? Because again, you can have all these regulations, but if someone wants to hurt another American, you're never gonna stop them. You can put all these regulations in, they're gonna find a way to do that. And so if you can stop them from devolving into that mental state by making sure that the country's healthy, first of all, and everything like that.
As for me, I do agree with him. Even if there are any regulations and there's still going to be gun violence out there, it is important for us to know whether someone is sane enough to own a fire weapon. And that's why I believe that we should have psychological tests that let us know how sane someone is, what their past is, and whether they have any intentions of hurting anyone or anything. Our gun rate is significantly high and dangerous, and it's important for us to keep our society safe and our community because we are one. And although we have many people of different races, different ethnicities, it's important for us to note that we are all the same and we all have to be safe in our own country.
Hugo, do you want to reply to Yareli of what she said?
I think again, you didn't really answer the question. Why are Americans still hurting other Americans despite the regulations that we still have?
Okay, well, it's the reason that other Americans hurt other Americans is for the reason that a lot of people don't know what they're doing or don't know how to deal with their mental issues. and they tend to go into violence because of that. And it's important for us to note that although there's many issues out there, we need to control them and we need to control ourselves. And gun violence is a huge issue here. That's why many cases are school violence and gun violence, and we need to note that it's better for us to be sane enough to hold a firearm rather than the issues that we have.
Right, but how though?
How though?
How?
What is your question?
Like, what is your plan to, again, help people's mental health, everything like that?
Well, we do have Medicare, we do have Medicaid, and although not many people are able to apply them or qualify for them, that's why I have certain funding that I want to dedicate to the healthcare of the deaf. And it's important for us to be able to go into a therapist and talk with someone, and also knowing what weapons are out there and who has them, why they have them, and what are their intentions.
Okay, Kigo,
Yes, sir.
with the unfortunate rise of gun violence in institutions such as public schools, what would your plan be to combat gun violence within schools?
Gun violence within schools. Again, it comes down to it. If someone is in a state where they want to hurt another person, you're not going to stop them. So again, making sure that they're healthy, everything like that. I've already answered this question. I don't need to speak on this.
Okay. Well, like you said, if someone needs to know whether someone is mentally sane enough to hold a firearm, it is really important for us to note that these children are in danger because of them, and it's important for us to know who has them, why they have them, and what are their intentions.
Okay. So the United States is currently experiencing a great influx of migrants crossing the border into the U.S. from their home countries in South America. As president, what would your border security policy look like in regard to dealing with these massive waves of illegal immigrants?
Honestly, I believe that we are all human, and it's everyone's world. We shouldn't have to close our borders down or have to have us do any sort of security. Although we do have a lot of drug and gun intake and outtake, but it is important for us to note that these people just want education. A lot of other countries do suffer with violence and not free education and all of such. So I think it's important for us to note that people just want a better world out there. And as for border security, I do believe that we should be noting who is coming in and what is going out. Many of the security usually just wave you down at the border and be like, oh, you have a nice day. It's important for us to know who's in here by an ID, a passport, anything of such, a birth certificate, a social security. All these things are available for us to know who is in our country, but many security or many officers don't know that or don't look at that for the reason that they don't really are trained to do so or don't really want to do their job and just want to go home to their families.
All right. So again, she was talking about how she wants to have better, like an inspection. Is that what I understood?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, I would do that, but better basically, because again, excuse me. When, again, you're basically minimizing the damage here, but you're not totally taking the damage away. Because again, if you inspect better, there's still going to be Americans hurt. There's still going to be Americans that are killed because of drugs coming over, everything like that. They're going to find a way through. And so again, this is a hard decision for me because again, my family comes from Mexico. I'm sure a lot of your family comes from Mexico and everything like that. But again, for the safety of the American people and everything like that, I feel it is best to close the border. Again, it is a hard decision for me. It's a tough decision, but it's the necessary decision for America and our people.
Okay, can I add on to that? Why do you think it's only coming from other countries? If within our own country we have our own issues, we have our own drug production, we have our own firearm production. In reality, it doesn't matter that it's coming from another country. It's happening within. And it doesn't even have to be any sort of other ethnicity, any other race. Like in reality, it's us within. We are the problem, and we need to better it. by having better security within our own country.
I already addressed that with, again, making sure Americans are healthy. I don't see a problem here.
I know, I understand that, but either way it's gonna happen. So what are you gonna do to minimize that? How are you gonna know that everyone is mentally sane enough to deal with this issue, with the drug issues, the firearm issues within our own country? Because we are the issue, we are factoring our own firearms to sell illegally.
Again, relating to people that are healthy, making sure that that day isn't being lobbied anymore, draining us off the corruption, as I've been repeating this whole time. And again, illegal firearm protection, I feel like that can be enforced through just enforcing it.
Okay, well, either way it happens without many acknowledgement by the officers, by the government, and all of the such. So what would you do to better it?
Again, I feel that you're discrediting our officers because again, you're saying that you want them to be mentally and physically fit. I feel like you're implying that they're not already.
Well, I mean, I've seen plenty of officers that aren't even able to run in order to catch someone who has potentially stolen or hurt someone. As we can see in El Paso, we have many cases where it's drunk drivers, and sadly we aren't there to help the people that are in danger. We have many lives lost because of our drunk drivers. So how would we know what police officers can better us and can better us to be in our country?
I feel like if you increase, again, police and police presence, you're only creating more pressure for law-abiding citizens to abide by the law. You're only increasing the pressure, and you're basically making a police state out of the U.S. I don't see how that's gonna work exactly. But again, relating to your drunk driving issue, again, what is driving people to go to the bar and drink and make all these rash decisions if they're not, having a good life in the first place? If they're having to resort to these easy ways out of alcohol and drugs or like that.
Well, I mean, if it's available here and it's given illegally, people are gonna use it, and people are gonna use it to their bad intent. Although it may feel good for them, it can possibly hurt someone else in the streets, in a family, a father, a mother. It can hurt anyone.
Right, but I said, again, there's an underlying issue to why people are, again, doing all these actions. If again, they're not having the best life, they're not having anything like that. So again, how are you gonna fix that underlying issue? So you're treating the symptoms by treating the actual issue.
Going back to border security and like you mentioned, Mexico. As president, how will you engage with Mexico and other countries to reform, create, and implement cooperative immigration laws?
I think again, America has not been respected. So again, making sure that America is participating in the world's affairs, but on our own terms. Again, negotiating with these countries that again, a lot of these immigrants are coming over and spreading drugs, spreading crime, and again, no amount of inspection is gonna stop that. So again, we need to close our border. Communicating that to other countries like Mexico and things like that.
Okay, well, either way, we do have international because we have our own, Mexico does send things over here, we do send things over to Mexico, and it's important for us to have those, goods be given to us. Either we pay $7 for a single avocado or anything else. But in reality, may you repeat the question?
So, as president, how will you engage with Mexico and other countries to reform, create, and implement cooperative immigration laws?
Well, I mean, honestly, if some Americans are going over to their countries as well and living over there, would they consider them immigrants as well? It's a double line, it's a double standard. Many of us are going over to another country or another nation to live over there because we don't like what is here. And then many of them are going over here because they don't have the same opportunities that are given here. So, although he wants to close our borders, I think we should limit on or talk about who is able to come in, why are they coming in, and what benefits they're able to gain from here.
Again, same thing again, she's listed all the symptoms but never a cause. So again, just, again, communicate to countries like Mexico that, again, this is not acceptable, that, again, people are coming over, spreading drugs, spreading crime. And it's necessary to close the border. Again, I've had to repeat this over and over again because you're stating the symptoms but not the cause, again.
But you think they're the cause? You think they're the reason that our nation is what it is now?
Yes.
Okay, so with the climate, how will you ensure all communities receive equal access to clean air and water and equitable response to climate disasters such as wildfires and
Wildfires? Well, actually, I do want to give an opportunity to those who are incarcerated. I believe that many of them have been incarcerated for around 20 years, so I do want to bring them out into the world and see whether they want to do volunteering by looking at the opportunities right here. So like cleaning our streets, helping with pollution. A lot of pollution is caused by transportation. We can have more public transportation be advertised. I know we all want our own cars. I know we all want our Teslas or Lambos, but like it's really important for us to note that this is harming our world and we need to better it in order to better the cause of, well, to see how long our world lasts in these upcoming years. I believe that as for wildfires, many people don't know how to protect our land really. We cut down trees, we're basically depriving animals from their own land. So we want more land, but we're depriving those who were here before us and what they need and what their needs are. So I find it really important for us to note that we should conserve our wildlife and our forests and all of our oceans by protecting them and seeing what changes can be made by that.
Right. Again, I do like your idea of having incarcerated, do community service. I feel that's also a really great idea. You know who else thinks it's a great idea? The United States. That's why it's already a thing. I don't see why it's already a thing, so I don't know why you would be proposing that. And again, for the climate, I feel that the U.S. is not even a factor when it comes to climate change because, again, you have these countries like China who are consuming at a wildly high rate all these non-renewable resources higher than us. And again, why are we scaling down and trying to go into these weaker alternatives like green energy and everything like that? That's been proven to be weaker when countries like China are consuming, again, at a wildly higher rate than us.
Okay, but you don't think we should be protecting those forests, those oceans that were here before us and possibly are going to hinder from our issues or what we take out to the world?
So again, I agree we should protect our forests and everything like that. That's why Theodore Roosevelt made national parks. I don't see, we've already done that. So again, to fix.
Okay, but if we're not protecting our national parks by littering and by burning and by making little parties at national parks that potentially cause wildfires and all of the such, so what issues can we see from that? How can we improve them?
Again, it's repetitive, but again, you stated symptoms but never a cause. Again, what is causing people to go and litter and everything like that, thinking that other people are going to pick up for them? Again, it's because mentally the American people are weak right now, and I'm here to make that better.
What steps will you take to ensure we collectively reduce our carbon emissions? Do you have an emissions reductions target or timeline?
Again, as I said, the U.S. has been scaling down to the point where we're relying, or we've tried to start relying on green energy, which has been proven to be weaker. While again, countries like China and a lot of these other countries are consuming all these non-renewable resources, at a higher rate, while we're scaling down, and I don't see the point. We should consult these other countries as to why this is going on and take care of that before we start scaling us down.
Okay. We could, I do like the idea of talking to other nations, but if we're gonna close down our borders as well, like, it makes no sense for them to help us, and if we're not gonna be helping them and their people as well. I do like the idea, the fact that he wants to talk with other nations before we start scaling down as well. But if they don't want to cooperate, we can't really do anything to help that. If we're doing it in our nation, it is really important for us to note that we're helping our own nation and using affairs, using ideologies, and using ideas that can possibly convince them to help us more is really important, since we are trying to just protect our wealth, to conserve it and have it last longer.
Well, as president, how will you support or advocate for families impacted by drug addiction?
We do have healthcare, but in the healthcare community, I know that a lot of people take advantage of medication that is being given. I know a lot of children see that their parents take pills, so they start taking pills, and it's just a continuation of generations just using pills, using any sort of medication or substance that can possibly control them or make them feel a certain way. So as for that, I'd like to make sure that our patients or those who are consuming those medications are knowing the addictions within those situations and within those medications, and as well as seeing that they are taking it and there is some improvement. Now, if we don't see improvement in their health, that is another issue, since we are providing medication that is possibly going to help them, but if they're not taking it properly, that's also really upsetting. Our streets do have a lot of people that sell pills, substances that are sold to our younger audiences, in which cause a substance abuse from really young. So it's really important for us to know who is taking and what they're taking, and making sure that our streets are clean from those sellers that are possibly hindering our younger audiences and their brain, since our brain doesn't develop until the age of 20.
Again, I see no problem with checking, informing patients who, what drug they're taking and the side effects. But again, to her point about, about hindering their mind, again, a lot of people have been put on antidepressants over one sign of depression, and I feel it's almost too much. And that's why, again, we have America has become mentally weak, because again, there's basically a drug for everything now, and it's gone too far to where the side effects aren't focused on, and it's just a pill to fix something, a pill to fix this, a pill to fix that. That's gone too far.
And with crime, since 1980, the U.S. prison population has grown over almost 800%. The United States has more people behind bars than any other country in the world. What would you do as a president to reduce the U.S. prison population and mass incarceration?
It all falls on ethics. Really, laws are made based off of ethics and how ethically moral one is. So, as you said, it is mentally, and whether knowing if our people are sane enough and whether people are mentally fit enough to live here, and for them not to take any medication that isn't certain, for the reason that there's a pill for everything, basically. And I feel like the way that I would help with mass incarceration would be letting people know the actual consequences. I know that now people are just incarcerated and then just let to do whatever they want in the prison. It's a whole nother life over there. They're given 3 meals a day. But it's important to know that there's consequences behind their actions, and I think they're let too loose nowadays. And it's important for us to know that people need to know that there's actions that are consequences, and that their actions hurt people, and by showing them that there's an actual consequence behind it. So whether it be cut down their meals, whether we bring back certain not attacks, but rather consequences within the jail, it is important that we show them that their actions weren't proper and we need to better them if they want to go back into the world.
Alright, again, I have no problem with incarceration, and make sure that it provides like a consequence for your actions, but also helps with rehabilitation. I see no problem with that. In terms of lowering the incarceration rate, again, it comes down to, lowering drug and crime comes down to, the underlying issue of why are Americans doing this? Why have they, why are they seeking these easy ways out, basically?
Do you agree with her or what she was saying?
Again, this whole debate has come down to you're stating the issues, but never the cause.
And do you agree with it?
Yeah, I can state the issues whenever the cause, but in reality, what is the cause? Just a mental state that has been given by the government, by the issues that are lying within the government.
It's it's the exact, if you were told the exact moment that red turns blue, you can't put an exact point on it. But again, it's a series of events that causes this. So again, you have the rise of just, there's a pill for this, there's a pill for that, that whole thing. Again, these are short-term, America seeks a lot of short-term benefits, right? But again, the long-term, we've ended up where we are now.
Number 4 in policy. Today, only 20% of the world's people live in free countries. What do you view as the United States' role in strengthening democracy and protecting human rights around the world?
Around the world, not just in our country. Okay, so as we know, Americans do have a lot of rights. That's why a lot of people do immigrate over here, and those rights are given back into their nation. So assuring that we are speaking to these political leaders over there as well, knowing that these are people, these are our people, these are the people who represent our nation. We need to protect them, and we need to speak highly of our own nation and our own country in order to better the sake of our world.
Alright, again, I think it's only inevitable that the U.S. is going to have to participate in international affairs. There's no question about that. We are basically the city on the hill. I have no problem with that. But again, the problem comes when countries don't respect the U.S. anymore. We've been pushed around. Again, we're not strong like we used to be, basically. And so this comes down to participating in the world's affairs, but on our own terms, in terms of negotiating with countries and everything like that. So my campaign is going to offer, again, stronger negotiations with other countries to make sure that America is finally respected once again.
So, conflicts regarding foreign interests with one another are growing more and more frequent, such as Russia and Ukraine, Israel, Palestine. How much involvement, if any, should the U.S. have with these foreign conflicts? Should these foreign conflicts be a priority for America?
Again, of course it should, because again, we are that city on the hill. We have to participate in the world's affairs. But again, with Russia and Ukraine and Israel and Palestine, I just want the fighting to stop at the end of the day. I don't feel anything like that. But again, when you look into the U.S., we are sending almost, 500 million. I'm gonna just toss a number out there. It's around that range, basically, like almost millions, hundreds of millions into Israel and all these things. Again, that's my whole point. I want to drain the swamp of this corruption, and again, make sure that we're not funding these wars, basically.
Well, as for funding the wars, I do agree with that. But at the end of the day, there is a higher power in those states, and a lot of people are getting hurt because of it. And as for international affairs, we should totally be involved in it. It is our issue. It is our problem. It is our world. Like it'll eventually come over to us, and it'll eventually hurt us. And whether we create alliances, whether we create any sort of connecting issues, it is important. I do believe it's a little important for us to fund them. Yes, absurd amount of money over there, especially because it is a war and we shouldn't be having these people getting hindered from other nations, especially because we should all be one. But this is a war that has been going on for ages at this point, and I find it absurd that it hasn't finished, and we should honestly just try to stop it by speaking with these nations, although it doesn't really depend on us. It is important for us to knock a little bit of sense in order to conserve our world and the alliances that we have created within each nation.
Do you guys have any last things to say to each other?
Again, I just want to thank you for this debate. It was an honor. So, again, over the course of this debate, you all have gotten to know me and my policies, and my campaign. However, I feel that, again, I don't know my point at all. And honestly, I would not trust to live the country.
Now, as for him, I do appreciate him for this debate. He did bring certain points that were really important for our nation to think about. Now, he was rather thinking about what the respect that America should have, but in reality, I think we should all just respect us in our own country for the reason that we are our own people and that we need to protect each other